second for one, on to first for two. No, get away! Here comes Hernando from third. He'll score. Padres take the lead.
While SDFC shows off at Snapdragon Stadium with a 3-0 win.
Beats it back to the middle. Aníbal, gol. El General, Aníbal Godoy. Boom, boom, gol.
Reacting to it all, it's Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour one of Jon and Jim on what will be just a 2-hour show day for Jon and Jim. We have the national championship game with pregame coverage beginning at 4 p.m. from Westwood One. Houston in the national championship taking on Florida at 5:50 tonight. Pregame coverage will get underway at 4 p.m. Now, Kevin Acee is in Sacramento. He will join us at 2:45. Chris Hodge, who's had all these winners for our listeners throughout the course of the football season through March Madness, he will join us in anticipation for tonight, the national championship game. Chris Hodge taking Vegas back with us at 3 p.m. So the last time we were on air, we were recapping the first loss of the year. That was Friday in Chicago.
Sky was falling.
Right, Padres, it really wasn't. Now the Padres go out and lose Saturday, and then the sky was beginning to fall. And then yesterday, the Padres are trailing 7-3, and you're thinking, all this great start that they established last week at Petco, is it going to be all for naught? But it wasn't, because they came back like they did in 2024. They had 6 come-from-behind wins last year, 4 runs or more. Their first of the season on a cold Sunday in Chicago. They come all the way back from 7-3. They win 8-7. It was all the things we said about last year's team again in 2025. Clutch hitting, 2-out hits, bullpen, taking advantage of miscues by the opponent. And they're 8-2. Yeah, they lost the series. But they're 8-2 through 10 games. So considering what could have played out when they trailed 7-3 yesterday, I think 8-2 is a pretty good spot to be in.
I am perfectly okay with it. Obviously, you would have loved to taken this series against the Cubs, but they just didn't play good baseball on Friday and Saturday. Really uncharacteristic of the first 7 games of the year. Sloppy baseball, even really sloppy baseball early on in yesterday's game as well. And we'll get into the craziness of the first inning. And they just didn't look right the first 2 games of Chicago for whatever it was. Nick Pivetta did not pitch well on Saturday. Randy Vasquez, he just, didn't have his control on Friday. The offense couldn't get it going. They just couldn't put runs on the board. Now, Shota Imanaga is a really good pitcher. And then they faced a tough lefty as well again on Saturday. But yesterday was a prototypical grit squad game. Like, whenever you think of grit squad and Padres, you think of games like yesterday. Trailing in the game, years past, it's pack it up, we're going home. Unfortunately, we got swept. We'll regroup. We'll come back tomorrow night against, the Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas A's. But grit squad Padres, they never give up. I think once Jackson Merrill hit that 2-run homer and it became 7-5, didn't you just think, all right, they're gonna figure out a way to either tie this game up or hell, win the game? Because that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I thought was, how did they get this dude on a 9-year, $135 million deal, which is a win for everyone involved, Padres fans, the organization, and obviously it is for Jackson Merrill as well. That's a lot of money. Now, a couple of days later, we see a Vladdy deal for $500 million. Different circumstances, different players. One is about to be a free agent. The other has 5 years of control. But Jackson Merrill continues to prove that there's not really a comp for him in Padres history. This 21-year-old center fielder who's burst onto the scene. You're right. I think without that moment, you're probably looking at a sweep. I think if he doesn't hit that 2-run home run there in the 4th inning to give you life, you're probably not winning the game, especially when you consider the circumstances that got them back in the game, like a Luis Arraez 2-out hit later and a Gavin Sheets 2-out hit later. And then Justin Turner drops the ball at first to supply the go-ahead run. So I'm with you. I think without the home run, they probably don't win. But yes, this is who they were a year ago. I think it gives them belief that this is who they're going to be again in 2025. And that, to me, is really good news.
8-2, you would have signed up for that in a millisecond to start this season. Now you have an opportunity against the A's. I'm very curious to see how this ballpark plays, by the way. Very curious, because against the Cubs, it was a bandbox, and the Cubs put up like a million runs. Now, I would be scared if the Padres came into the series maybe cold, like, oh, maybe they think that they can just get hot here and maybe it doesn't pan out the way they wanted to. But after yesterday's game, they're swinging the bats well. Jackson Merrill is, on a tear to start the season. And oh, by the way, remember when everyone was worried about Luis Arise and we told you, yeah, don't be worried at all. He'll be fine. Oh, yeah, he's fine.
He's completely
four
fine.
hits yesterday. He's 10 for his last 27. I think he's 10 for last. Is it 10 last?
He's better than that. That's over that stretch. He's actually been better over a shorter period of time than that.
Okay.
He's like 10 for his last. I'll look it up.
17 or something.
He had 4 hits yesterday. He had multiple hits on Saturday. So
he's completely fine. He's raised his average to over I think 250 right now. He's good. He's going to be okay. Never had a worry about Luis Arise. And hopefully they can take advantage here against the A's and coming home 10-3, like we said, if they take a 3-3 road trip, will you take it? Obviously, we wanted to be greedy there, but you come home 10-3, win a series against the A's. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think to the point on Arise, which we made on Friday, and also to the point on players that are struggling right now, you have to be careful. I made this point last week to react to anything that plays out over 10 games or less, because you might see a player that's performing and say, "Oh, they proved us wrong. Look at Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz. They're proving us wrong." Or look at Yuli Gurriel. I told you so. He can't hit. There's no sample here. They've played 3 opponents. Half of these players don't play every day, right? When you're talking about like the Yuli Gurriels or the Martin Maldonados or the Gavin Sheets, they don't even have like 30 plate appearances as of yet. So I just say, take a deep breath, let it play out. If they're playing winning baseball, that's terrific. Now we get to see Cease and King, or King and Cease, in that order. We didn't see them in Chicago. I'm with you. Go win this series. I'll ask for more if they win tonight, maybe, because it is the A's and you're in the state and it's going to be all Padres fans. You got Michael King and Dylan Cease, but win tonight and then we can have that conversation. But I say win this series. You're 10-3. I don't even care about the division. I know the Dodgers have been great. I know the Giants have been great. It doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. You play all these teams a ton and it's just 10 games into 162.
Now, I saw a little bit of this from our former colleague, Marty Caswell, who was big last year into turning points and signature wins. It's game 10 of the year.
They've played 10, yeah.
Yesterday. Would you put that in the signature win category to start their season?
It's always nice to get something to give you the belief that you can do it when it's a rarity. Like, there have not been a lot of teams in baseball through 10 days to overcome 4-run deficits. I don't know the exact number, but there haven't been a lot. I saw that somewhere on social media. But no, am I going to look back on this game at the end of the year and be like, man, that game at Wrigley on April 6th was a big... I don't think I will.
Well, we looked at the 8-0. Now, it wasn't like yesterday, but the 8-0 comeback against the Cubs in April last year, we looked at.
Yeah, and again, that to me is a lot different. Because you're coming off 2023 where you were 79-83. You came back from 8 down. You did it later than the second inning. They trailed 7-3 yesterday in the second inning. So I think 8-0 is you never forecast it, and it's like a 1 in 10,000. I think a 4-run deficit, you got a plan to overcome. I think most teams in baseball are going to overcome multiple 4-run deficits this year to win, would be my guess.
But I could also make the argument that yesterday's win kind of, reaffirms what kind of team you want to be. Because
yeah, definitely
every year, is its own entity, and you have to create an identity within that season. Now, hopefully they have brought, and it looks like, so far so good, brought what made them really great in 2024 into 2025. I think it just reaffirms the fact that that's what they're doing with yesterday's win. So I would put it in probably the early signature win category for sure. Is like, all right, this, this is a strong indication so far early on that last year's team, the last 2 months, that was all the comebacks and great wins and whatnot, that it's still going to be this team this year and that they still can do it.
I agree with that. Here's my difference. Again, going back 2023, they go 79-83. The day they came back from 8-0 down, they were 5-7 on the year. So they had not gotten off to a good start. They trailed 8-0 in the bottom of the 6th inning.
They were, wait, hold on, pause.
They were 5-7.
Were we
They
freaking
were
out last
3
year
and
at this
5
time?
at home.
Because coming out of 2023, they start 5 and 7.
They were 5 and 7, trailing 8-0 on their way to 5 and 8, on their way to 3 and 6 at home. And they did that all in 3 innings. They came back from 8-0 down in the 6th to beat the Cubs. So to me, they probably needed it more last year to prove that they were capable of not being 2023. I think this team, regardless of whether they won yesterday, thinks they're still capable of doing what they did a year ago in 2025. That's what I hope. Yeah. That's my hunch.
That's what I feel like too, especially after yesterday's game.
Yep.
Because they didn't really face much adversity, any adversity on their seven-game homestand.
Yep.
The first 2 games in Chicago, they just didn't look right.
Right.
I mean, they had a chance to tie it up on that Friday night, but they didn't get the job done. Saturday, they just didn't have it Saturday. And then yesterday, you feel like the same way. That first inning was, I mean, literally ridiculous. I'm watching that game in the first, and you were driving back, right?
I was.
So you didn't see it in real time.
Right.
But I feel, I mean, anybody watching that first inning yesterday, their head must have hurt after that inning ended. It was like 46 minutes long. There were 2 balks in the inning. There were, I mean, a boatload of walks. There were, it was a 5-3 game after the first. I think there was like 18 batters that came to the plate total. I mean, it was ridiculous how slow that first inning was, but they overcame and they picked up a big win on the road. And I just think it reaffirms and lets everybody know inside that clubhouse, if anybody had any type of doubt, which maybe, I don't think, maybe a couple, but sure as hell not Jackson Merrill. If anybody had any bit of doubt that like, oh, can we replicate anything that we did last year? Can we have that same mentality and keep that through 2025 like we did in 2024? I think the answer after yesterday is, yeah, we can.
I agree with you. I think that they have a chance to replicate 2024. They'll need some things such as health, which goes into any season, especially in baseball. But yesterday's win hopefully goes a long way and hopefully turns into more here beginning tonight in Sacramento. Again, we have the national championship game pregame coverage beginning at 4 p.m. So we have the national championship tonight coming up at 5:50. We have a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place that will give away between now and 4 p.m. Kevin Acee with much more in the series in Chicago, looking ahead to tonight in Sacramento. He will join us at 2:45. Chris Hodge, taking Vegas, is here at 3 p.m. We've got you covered. Padres in Sacramento. SDFC picks up a big win. We'll get you ready for the national championship game here until 4, Jon and Jim.
San Diego Sports Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air.
Good news, the Siegel Lady Silver, North Lubbock, Claremont Drive.
Owners are saving $500.
If you own a home, you can get that money in paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk
anymore. Negative.
All right, it is iHeartRadio Week only on Wheel of Fortune. Tonight, Wheel welcomes multi-platinum winning artist Keith Urban. And viewers at home, it's your chance to win a VIP trip to iHeartRadio's Let Freedom Sing July 4th celebration in Nashville. Watch Wheel of Fortune. Check your local listings. Jon and Jim, we do have a 4-pack of tickets to give away to Sesame Place. So we'll do that coming up between now and 4 p.m. Our pregame coverage for the national championship game kicks off at 4. Kevin Acee will join us at 2:45. Chris Hodge with free picks for our listeners coming up at 3 p.m. Not just a Sunday win for the Padres over the weekend. SDFC continues to put its stamp on a really good start to their season. Another win at home over Seattle. 14 points through 7 matches, an average of 2 points per match. They maintain their unbeaten streak at home. And this has been, one of the better stories probably in Major League Soccer. 7 matches in for SDFC, an expansion franchise. 14 points, second place in the West. We talked about, is this a playoff team? Question now becomes, is this not just a playoff team? Is this a team that can make noise potentially in the playoffs in its first year?
Dude, they're legit. Like, they're really good. They scored within the first 2 minutes of that match on Saturday night. Chucky Lozano, you're kind of waiting to see, like, when's he going to have that breakout game? Obviously, the injury did not help. He might have been a little tentative in his first match against the Galaxy, but what he did on Saturday night, if you get that from Chucky Lozano, oh man, dude, this team's gonna be fun. And again, like, can I break down what happened in the game? No, but what I can say is, like, they passed the eye test for me, at least. They look like a good team. They have played with the type of aggressiveness that you would want to see. And they're a fun brand of soccer.
I think that, at what point you say, like, it is something real, because we'll have a guest with us from Apple TV tomorrow that made a comment, I think it was Dax McCarty, that it is, who made a comment that, like, he believes that they're a legitimate threat to win the West. And he'll join us tomorrow, coming up, I think, at 4:30 in the afternoon. But we've also seen in sports that you could be a really good team for a good portion of the season and not even qualify for, like, a postseason. So, like, I feel like it's past the point of, well, it's just early because they're like 2 or 3 matches into their expansion season. But we're not at the point where you can fully stamp this is fully legitimate, if that makes sense. Like, 7 out of 34 is 20% of their season. So 80% is still in front of them. I've seen Padres teams that were 50 and 38 miss the postseason. So, like, I think I believe, but it's going to have to be maintained. Mm-hmm. But 7 matches to me, like, that to me is not a fluke. 1 or 2 matches, sure. That could be a fluke. 7 matches, second best team in the West, that to me can't be seen as a fluke.
No, I think the question is, like, are they a good expansion team, or, like, how good
are they a good team?
Are they a good team? I think that's a legitimate question. And I think they're leaning towards more of, like, a good team than just kind of this expansion team that nobody knows about, and they're kind of catching people off guard. And, once the league figures them out, then it'll be a different story. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. And they've put on a style of soccer that is, I think, really enjoyable to watch and exciting. They remain undefeated at Snapdragon Stadium, back-to-back wins. They have 14 points in the conference. They're second in the West. They have the same goal differential as the top team in the West, Vancouver. They are putting up, some big numbers for an expansion team as far as goal scoring goes. And again, I think the biggest key here, and, like, the X factor, is if Chucky is going to play like he did on Saturday night, where he had 2 assists and a goal. That's the type of production that you were looking for right out the gate from Chucky. And if it took 6 games, it took 6 games, and looks like he's healthy, and he played most of that match. And That was just a dominant win.
I feel like his health, like what we talk about the Padres, it's like I feel like Chucky Lozano's health is going to go a long way because it probably didn't take 6 games because he missed 3. So he only played the first match in 20 minutes. Then he missed 3. He returned and now he's scored. But like if they're able to keep him healthy, that probably changes their ceiling significantly, as opposed to if he deals with injuries, which is something he has dealt with throughout the course of his career, including last year, including to start this year, missing 3 matches. But I don't know, man. I really don't. I think that's a really good question. Are they a good team for being an expansion franchise, or are they a good team? And I think what they've shown to this point is they're a good team.
Yeah.
The question is, are they going to be a good team for an expansion franchise at the end of the year? Or are they going to legitimately compete in the West throughout the course of the regular season and into the postseason?
Oh, if you haven't been to a match yet, you got to get there. Now, they play on the road this weekend against Colorado. 6:30 start time. Of course, you can listen right here on San Diego Sports 760. But, I mean, the atmosphere at Snapdragon to start for them has been really good. Almost 30,000 again on this past Saturday night, coming off the real high of their win against LAFC, where they, sold that game out. I think that when people that are kind of curious about what to expect with this team and, how they play and the atmosphere and the vibe, like just go to a match of Snapdragon. I'm telling you, you go and you're going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm in. That's how I felt. That's how I know other people have felt. Their supporters have done a fantastic job of making it really feel like a home field advantage through the first 4 matches. The supporters section has been full, packed, sold out every single match. I love what they do before the game starts with the fireworks and the Chrome and Azul ball and just, in game and just, I think it's a great atmosphere. It's a great vibe. And I'm telling you, if you have not gone to a match yet and you're kind of like on the fence and you wanted to go and you wanted to see how it was, go to a match.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is you'll have plenty of opportunities because they play now through October in the regular season and hopefully playing deeper into October here in 2025. But you can't ask for a better start. I mean, nobody knew what to expect. I don't think anyone would have been surprised if they got off to a slow start in their first ever season. But they have not done that. They've beaten the defending champs. They've got the 14 points, and they were very impressive, obviously, this past weekend. 3-0. All of those goals coming in the first half. Is that correct?
Yeah, very quickly in the first half.
Which is what they did against LAFC as well, with 3 goals in the first half. So a great start for SDFC. All right, back to the Padres on the other side. Kevin Acee will join us at 2:45. If there's one area of concern, 10 games into the season, I'll share that area with you next. And I think it's legitimate. And we'll share that with you on the other side. Plus, Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, at 2:45. Sesame Place tickets to give away. Chris Hodge on the national championship game coming up at 3 p.m. We're here until 4. National championship game pregame coverage begins then right here on Jon and Jim.
Your tickets for the San Diego Giving Back raffle helps families at our local Ronald McDonald House stay close when their hospitalized child needs them most, and gives you a chance to win a Carlsbad Beach House, dream vacations, and so much more. Visit sdraffle.com to get your tickets today.
New at Sombrero, potato roll tacos. Classic roll tacos, now potato filled. Feeling saucy? Try them loaded. Top of grilled protein and creamy jalapeno lime or chipotle sauce. Roll in today.
Sombrero Mexican food.
We cater too.
Wait, before you dig, know what's below. CPL specializes in utility locating to keep your projects safe. Visit cpldetection.com.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. We'll start with the Padres. Comeback victory yesterday against the Cubs, avoiding the sweep. They improved to 8-2 on the season. Next up, they'll take on the Sacramento, Las Vegas, Oakland A's tonight in Sacramento. 7:10 first pitch. Michael King on the mound for the Padres. SDFC remains undefeated as they beat the Sounders 3-0 on Saturday night. Next up, they'll take on Colorado on Saturday on the road. 6:30 is kickoff. 6 p.m. is when our pregame coverage starts. And tonight is the national championship game between Houston and Florida. Our coverage starts at 4 p.m. And this update's been brought to you by Staples.
All right, we'll give away Sesame Place tickets coming up. We do have Kevin Acee in 15 minutes, and we also have Chris Hodge from Taking Vegas, actually for a final time this season, previewing the national championship game, making some free plays for our listeners as well, coming up at 3 p.m. So I mentioned if there is a concern, and I don't know if you could say that after 10 games and a team is 8-2, but if there's something to forecast that could be problematic, it has to be tied to starting pitching. Because with Darvish on the IL and with the 3 starters in Chicago, only 1 series, combining to go 8 1/3 innings this weekend. 8 1/3 innings. You heard me right. That's Randy Vasquez, Nick Pivetta, and Kyle Hart. That, of course, isn't sustainable. Then again, nor is 800 baseball for any team either, and they've gotten off to a 8-2 start. They'll get Darvish back. The question is when. Pivetta was brilliant in his first start. Hopefully the second was the aberration. Kyle Hart was not good yesterday. Hopefully that's not who he is, obviously. And Randy Vasquez is capable of giving you more than he gave you this past week, even though he was effective against Chicago in 4 2/3 innings, allowed 2 runs. But that would be my true concern, that if Darvish misses time and you're relying heavily on Vasquez and Hart, you can't have a series where your starters go 8 1/3 combined innings. That's less than 3 innings per outing. You had to make moves as a result. You're taxing your bullpen. That, of course, is not sustainable.
It's not. Turn your mic on. It's not. Thankfully, the offense put up 8 runs yesterday. Logan Gillespie, I thought, was probably the MVP of that game yesterday, because if he does not get into at least the 5th inning like he did, then the bullpen, where are you going?
Right.
The Darvish injury, the good news is, throwing without any pain so far, long toss. Hopefully he gets back, sooner rather than later, because yeah, if Pivetta has an off day and he's in between a Vasquez and a Hart, and Kyle Hart is not a guy that I think is going to go 5 innings every time out. Same thing with Randy Vasquez. Those guys are going to be definitely up and down. You're going to need more stability at the back end of your rotation, or you're going to be having a lot of games like potentially, yesterday, where your bullpen's taxed and, it's red alert in the first inning and red alert early in that game. And that's just it's not a way you want to live.
No. And to your point, I mean, the fact that you can win a game where your starter goes 2/3 of an inning on the road against, again, not a hapless team. No. I mean, Chicago has the makings of at least being good. You win a game where your starter went 2/3 of an inning on the same day you made a move because you don't have bullpen help because your starters had been taxed. That's a credit to the Padres. But again, using the S word, sustainability, that's not going to happen a ton. You're not banking on that. Hey, Kyle Hart goes 2/3 of an inning. We'll figure it out. That's not a formula. It's not part of their formula. Hart's going to go more than 2/3 of an inning, or he won't be in their rotation. But to me, Darvish is so integral, just so integral. He's so important moving forward. They don't need him today, thankfully, and I'd rather have him healthy in the second half than the first half. But it's something I'm thinking about. Getting you Darvish back, strengthening that rotation. And this team's already been good. Hopefully they'd be even better if they get Darvish back and strengthen this rotation.
Yeah, that's something that's important for sure. I mean, if I said right now, Darvish will give you 21 starts this year. 20,
last night it was 20.
I upped it.
21 starts?
21 starts. You take that.
Especially if he's effective and healthy and pitching well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's your concern. And I think another part of this series that I'm not going to say it was eye-opening, but something to keep an eye on is, defensively. There were some plays defensively that I'm like, I don't really like that.
Yeah, that didn't look like the Padres of 2024.
Yeah, shoring up that defense was something that Mike Schilt made a priority for last year's team, and they showed it. Defensively, they were really good last year.
Mm-hmm.
Xander at short and Luis Ariz at first. Those are going to be areas defensively that are going to be up and down. I mean, Luis Ariz at times this series looked completely out of place. Like he was, out of place a lot. Xander, you just watch him play short, and you said it last night. He looks old. Like shortstop, he's supposed to have more range than that, and he just doesn't. I don't know. He's not looked good defensively early on this season at short. Same thing with Luis Ariz at first. Last year it was all great at first for him, but this year so far, especially in Chicago, mostly in Chicago, you're like, oh, that doesn't look good.
Yeah, I know what people are going to say. Like, how could you be complaining about this team? They're 8-2. Everything's been great. It has been good. And
really
this
good.
isn't like a full-on deep dive critique. But if you've watched these 10 games, I know you have felt the same way about Xander at some point defensively. Opening day, he commits an error that brings a tying run to the plate in the 9th inning that Robert Suarez gets out of. This past weekend, I have no idea what was going on.
Dude,
there were 4 plays. There were 4 plays that he failed to make defensively this past weekend. So, and maybe I'm missing one. I think there's at least 5 below average defensive plays that Xander has made through 10 games this year. Again, he's never been known as this like elite defender. He doesn't have to be a brilliant defender. He doesn't have to be their best offensive player either. He just needs to do more than he's done here. Like, it's as simple as that. He needs to hit better than he's hit. He needs to be a better defender than he's shown through these 10 games. I had someone tell us on the wrap-up show last night, I was looking at comments this morning, that said, well, they didn't bring Xander here to be a 30 home run hitter. They brought him here to be the 2023 hitter he was. And I thought to myself, no, they didn't. 2023, he compiled all those stats in September when they had fallen 15 games under 500 to make his season look somewhat good. But they didn't acquire him for September of 2023. And they certainly expected more last year. And I'm telling you right now, they are expecting more from him in 2025 too. So I'm not saying he needs to hit 30 home runs, and I'm not saying he needs to be a 995, fielding percentage guy. I'm just telling you he's got to be better than what he has shown us as a Padre.
The good news is they're 8-2 with Xander kind of just being average to below average so far.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they win 93 games again and Xander puts up a year that's like closer to last year than, maybe years that, in his past,
right? You
take it, it's the same thing with whoever else on this roster, Martin Maldonado. They win 93 games and Martin Maldonado hits 190 for them. You take it.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you like those players to be better? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's all about wins and losses, and they're 8-2. They've played really good baseball through the first 10 games, up and down in Chicago, obviously, and the one thing that I hate saying about Xander is, like, rarely have we seen them win because of him. Now, there are times when he has helped the team for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not saying he's never done anything. He's done a lot, but not enough where I can say that, most of the wins they have are directly correlated to Xander helping them out. Jackson Merrill, when they win,
he's like the reason.
More often than not, yeah, he's the reason, and he is a big part of those wins. Xander, on the other hand, not so much. A lot of times it's in spite. Yesterday, you have a runner on second, less than 2 outs. Xander's up, doesn't come through. You have to have Gavin Sheets behind him, pick up the plays. Pick up the slack there. There was a moment earlier in this season too, same thing. Runner on, I think it was third, less than 2 outs, pops up to second. Like, there's been moments this year where he's had opportunities to come through and he just hasn't. And that's been the case with Xander over his tenure now with the Padres. Is they win more often than not because of Xander, but kind of in spite of him a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I buy that. And to your point, I'd prefer Xander do what he did last year and they win 93 games
for
than
sure.
Blake Snell do what he did in 2023, which is win a Cy Young and nobody cares.
Right.
Because they were under 500. So, yeah, hopefully they can get to 93 wins. Hopefully Xander can help them get to 93-plus wins. Let's catch up with Kevin Acee on the other side. He's going to join us in about 5 minutes. Chris Hodge, taking Vegas, will join us at 3 p.m. in the 3 o'clock hour. Your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place. We'll give those away in the 3 o'clock hour. We'll get you ready for Houston tonight, taking on Florida in the national championship game. Pre-game coverage begins at 4, tip-off at 5:50. So Jon and Jim until 4. Kevin Acee next, Jon and Jim.
Kevin Acee on San Diego Sports 760. Brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino and Resort, the Players' Place.
All right, Padres A's coming up tonight from Sacramento as the A's transition eventually to Las Vegas. Padres salvaging that game in Chicago yesterday in the cold. And great to connect with Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, back with us right now Jon and Jim. So, Kevin, obviously, it's just one series, and they really did well to find a way to win that game on Sunday. But the starting pitching this series, 8 1/3 combined innings, obviously that's not sustainable. You've been writing about Yu Darvish and at least the prospects of what comes next or his return. So is there any update here on Yu Darvish and what it could mean for this rotation moving forward?
There's really not, other than that he is progressing, feeling good. That's it. Because normally you might be able to read into, and maybe you can here, but normally you'd be able to read into and go, okay, well, this guy could be off a mound in a few days. Well, they're cautioning that this is kind of up to you, and they have been saying since before spring training, they're going to be careful with you. That's if he was healthy. They were going to kind of limit his work maybe early, depending on how he felt. Well, he wasn't healthy, had the elbow issue. And so they want Yu Darvish to be around. He's going to be 39 in August, and, has had some issues recent years. And so there really is no telling what is next or when that next is. He could just keep playing at that distance, or he could be off a mound Wednesday. I don't know.
Kevin, me and Jon had this conversation the other night, and we were trying to figure out like a comp for Jackson Merrill because he continues to do things at such a young age that you're like, I don't know what the limit is for this kid. I mean, every single game this year so far, he has been so impactful, and the power numbers are up. Do you, the people that you've talked to, do they see Jackson Merrill as maybe like a 30 home run type of hitter?
Yes. I don't know that they thought it like this year, or, he had 24 last year. I don't know that they thought it then, but he's found his stroke, and he's found they have found that he's super smart, right? I mean, I love going to talk to this guy, and he almost never fails to teach me something about what he was looking at, right? And obviously, he's focused in on certain things that I'm not, or really almost no one else is, and little tells, things that he tries to anticipate from pitchers. So you put that together with him getting, stronger, better, more acclimated with the smarts, with that obviously hand-eye coordination, the bat to ball skills. Yeah, I mean, they've cautioned all along, and no one's saying that he's like Mike Trout or something. No one's saying he's a healthy Mike Trout, but what is the limit for this kid is a really great question, because the talent is there. Okay, is it Tatis talent? Well, most people say no. Is it close with this incredible desire and intangibles that could actually make him as good or better because of who Jackson is? And I'm not putting anybody else down. I'm just saying who Jackson is seems to have taken any limits off of what he can be.
I think that's well said. Kevin Acee is our Padres insider. I'll go back to yesterday, not the home run, but the walk. In the eighth inning of a one-run game, that's where a 21-year-old recognizing that, yeah, sure, I could hit a solo home run, and that's probably better. But recognizing the circumstance, getting on here is going to put some serious pressure on Chicago. He gets on, he steals a base, he eventually scores with 2 outs. He's becoming more well-rounded, I guess I would say. And I guess this is to your point, right? He's just becoming more well-rounded right in front of our eyes.
Which, I mean, the power is going to be the big thing, the big hits. But yes, yes, absolutely. He knows the game, and then has this insanely, not that he doesn't, and he'll admit it afterward, whether it was a week later, a month later, or whatever, that maybe he was pressing on this, or he was trying for every single player, every single human will fall into, lapses or be tempted to do more than they can do in that moment. But he is so good at generally not doing that and knowing the situation and what the situation calls for. Just, absolutely.
So I feel like, when a writing's on the mound, Kevin, this team is pretty confident with the lineup that they're going to throw out there. Yeah. But when there's a lefty on the mound, there's definite holes, I feel like, with this team. How long are they going to continue to do what they've been doing against lefties? And what's the limit for, all right, maybe we should try something different here?
I don't know. Like they're winning, and they have to find out for sure before they start letting people go and calling people up. But it is not too early to start asking that question. It might be a tiny bit too early to start taking action, but it's not too early to ask that question. You've got to find out. You're not going to face as many lefties, so it might take a little longer for you to find out. But as you've seen with the different lineups and the different places the different people are batting, and we'll find out tomorrow. So I was just thinking about it, wrote myself a note on the plane, like, hey, let's look into that today. Yeah, we got some things. Look, I think there's some things against lefties too. There's a certain, against righties too. There's a certain left fielder who you got to start be looking at, right? Yeah. Like, and I'm always cautious about like, ooh, hey, look what you have in AAA, because that's an if, okay? And we've seen how ifs don't always work out. As a matter of fact, don't most often. But that is a more promising AAA position player roster than you would generally have. And so there are options down there. So I absolutely think that the next couple weeks are big for certain players and for decision makers with the Padres.
Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, with us right now. Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. So back to yesterday for a moment. They come back from 7-3. You watched it firsthand a ton last year. You wrote about it today. The big comebacks from a year ago, the late comebacks from a year ago. We've spent a couple of our conversations together already talking to you about 2024. I mean, when you watch yesterday play out, are you sitting there saying, I'm watching another version of the 2024 Padres?
And I think the significance of that is that it carried over, which it doesn't always, right? And so the fact that you would establish it as a belief inside of yourself and establish it as normal, that this is what we do. You're not coming back from 4-run deficits very often. Yep. They did it 6 times last season, and it was the most in the majors. So that's pretty good, but it's only 6 times, right? Now, they weren't down that much by 4 runs. But like the fact that you do it, and then also the ability that has to make sure that didn't become a sweep, which means that today you're not trying to have it stop what could be a 4-game losing streak, right? And so that was the big thing last year, and I think it is. I don't know how the season's going to play out. I don't want to start making predictions. Though I do think, I've said from the start, I think they're a playoff team or playoff caliber team. But like, I do think this is real based on the fact that it is a carryover from last year.
What do you expect to see in tonight's game at that ballpark, Kevin? Are you making your way down there right now in a little bit?
I am very soon. Let's see. I heard a lot of home runs, right? 12 home runs in 3 games. They played the Cubs, right? So like the Cubs came in here and walked a lot and hit a lot. So I guess Padres saw that too. Look. I'm kind of treating it as like a little bit of an adventure. I think it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt. I think the players think that as well. But the fact is it's 3 games and no one's going to come off very well complaining about it a lot. But, look, it's a novelty. We could go forever. I'm sure you guys have talked a lot about it, rightfully so, that this is a real shame. Yep. Not, hey, good for you, Sacramento. And I think, they're trying to put their best foot forward of, hey, look, we're a big town. We could be a team, have a team. But like, the fact that the A's are here is just kind of lame and it kind of sucks. And, but I hate to say this, like, it is what it is. And I'm kind of really excited. I'm going to a minor league ballpark tonight to watch this cozy game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. It
like
really
spring training all over again, Kevin.
It has a spring training feel. And also the situation playing out with Tampa as well. Yeah. Two minor league stadiums for 30.
Theirs was a natural disaster.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt. This was much more preventable.
I'm trying to look past it, but it's also just kind of bumps me out because this one was because of the doing of certain people.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we talked to you Friday, and everyone's like, well, Luis Ariz hasn't hit. And then come Monday, Luis Ariz is, one of the hotter hitters in the major leagues. He was already hitting the ball hard, right? Even that first week, it felt as if he was kind of due for a 3+ hit game. He does that on Sunday. At the end of the year, are you expecting the same old Luis Ariz?
I would think so. He certainly looks like it.
Yeah.
And it's like, he was hitting it hard for Luis, right? Like, he's not a 105-mile-an-hour guy spraying it all over. Like when Manny's doing that and he's just hitting it right at people. But Luis was spraying balls all over the place, and they were 2 inches, 4 inches, a foot from being a hit. And there were like 7 of them. And you're like, gosh, if 3 of those fell, we wouldn't even be talking about Luis Ariz. But yeah, this yesterday, even the day before, those were Luis Arraez.
Staying with Luis Arraez, is there any concern about his defense at first?
I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that they still think this is their best defensive alignment. I don't know what the other option is, because you're going to have Jake Cronenworth make a bigger difference at defense. Now, if you decide that you are going to play, Connor Joe at first, or someone that you call up that is, then that you're going to have Luis be the DH again. I think we're a ways from that. I think Luis has also played some good first. He made a couple, I don't want to say bonehead. He made a couple plays that, just weren't very smart. They weren't what Mike Schilt would like to think, but it's mostly been, typical of the Padres. But I don't think it's like he's terrible, and he plays like really hard. And he has also made, I want to stress, he's made some good plays. But yes, this is not their best. This is not their best defense or their best first baseman, but given what they have, it might be their best infield defense. I don't know what you guys think, but I just think that this is probably the best alignment.
Can I just make a general statement to you? You don't even have to react. And it's only 10 games, and they're 8-2. So it's not to be overly critical, but I'm telling you, man, Kevin, yeah. I watched Xander Bogaerts play defense. It leaves a lot to be desired. That's my 2 cents. But there was an error opening day. There were misplays in Chicago. I don't know what it is. He's not here to be a 990 fielder. He doesn't have to be the best defender in baseball history, but it just feels sometimes like he looks like a quarter step slow to me, especially to start the year. That's my observation.
You said I didn't have to say anything. I agree with you. And the problem is, like, if he was hitting like he was in Boston, it'd be a different thing. But then it's like, yes, but like, again, he's making $25 million, and he's still Xander Bogaerts, and Jose Iglesias is probably their better infielder, right? Like, he might be their third best infielder, but then what do you do then? So, yeah.
It's just, it's 10 games, and he can be a good fielder. He can be a good hitter. In watching, I'm like, wow, Xander just kind of looks off right now.
But I don't know what to do there, because Jake is better at second, because I could see an Iglesias at second, Jake at first, and Arraez as DH, but then we just didn't address your Xander.
Xander's got to play. Xander's got to play. As in year 3 of this deal, he's got to play. That's another conversation, but Xander's got to play. There's no doubt about it. Kevin, appreciate it. Enjoy the series in Sacramento. We'll catch up with you on Wednesday.
Right on. Take care.
All right, Kevin Acee, your Padres insider, brought to you by the all-new Jamul Casino and Resort, the Players Place. On the other side, Chris Hodge taking Vegas. Free pick for tonight. Florida and Houston in the national championship. Chris Hodge, for a final time this season, joins us next on Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. We'll start with the Padres. They salvaged the 3-game series against the Cubs yesterday afternoon, winning 8-7. Next up, they'll take on the Athletics tonight, 7:05 in Sacramento. Michael King on the mound for the Athletics. Tonight is the national championship game between Houston and Florida. Our coverage starts at 4 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. And this update's been brought to you by Staples.
The Padres' first road trip ends well.
Machado grounds one to short. Swanson goes to second for one, on the first for two. No, get away! Here comes Fernando from third. He'll score. Padres take the lead.
While SDFC shows off at Snapdragon Stadium with a 3-0 win.
Beats it back to the middle. Aníbal, gol. El General, Aníbal Godoy. Boom, boom, goal.
Reacting to it all, it's Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is the final hour of Jon and Jim because pregame coverage begins in 1 hour for the national championship game tonight. Houston and Florida. And here to talk more about that game, Chris Hodge, our friend from Taking Vegas, actually for a final time this year. He'll be back with us when football season rolls around. He's been unbelievable for our listeners. 19-5-1 over his last 25 shows on his text line. He's got something for our listeners right now on the text line for tonight's game. So, Chris, great to have you back with us here in San Diego. Huge one tonight, obviously. Title game between Florida and Houston. What do you have for our listeners, and how can they get it? And thanks for hopping on.
Now, first of all, bittersweet, man. I'm going to miss you guys.
I know, man.
We're going to miss you.
It's been a good ride.
Show. Yeah, man. Get the tears out, man. I'm going to you guys did a great job, and I say it all the time. You know, I do a lot of these. Thank you guys so much. You guys are one of the best teams that I have the pleasure to work with. So I appreciate everything you guys have done over the last 7 months. And hopefully we end it with a win. So if you text the word win to the number 545454, we have a play on the total tonight between Florida and Houston, which is holding steady right now at about 140.5. So it's completely free. It's the last time you can get the free pick here on the San Diego show. So text the word win to the number 545454, and hopefully we close this thing out with a 20-win, 5-loss, and 1 push record here.
Before we get to the games here, Chris, what side do you have for the Houston-Duke game? That was a choke by Duke, or Houston, won that game? What's your take on that one?
Nah, complete transparency, man. We were on Duke in that game. We had Florida in the early game. We had Duke in the later game, and terrible job there at the end of that game. It was almost significant in that game was, Cooper Flagg had a really, really good look at that shot. And, he short-armed it. But he got a really, really good look. And, he didn't make the play. And I don't think that's going to wear on him to not go into the NBA draft because he's the consensus number 1 pick. But, knowing the pride that kid has, you never know, right? When you miss a shot like that, especially in NIL now where you can make millions upon millions just to stay in school, you never know. So I think the significance of that game and that shot is maybe that kid comes back, which would be a fascinating story. But no, we were on Duke in that game. When we win, I tell you. When we lose, I tell you. It was definitely a tough loss, but in complete transparency, look, we've won a couple games that we probably had no business winning, so it just came back and got us.
All right, getting into tonight's matchup, if Florida wins, what are they going to have to do to beat this vaunted defense from Houston?
Yeah, they got to win a high-scoring game. I mean, if they get into a situation where they're playing that game in the high 50s, low 60s, I think that definitely favors Houston. But look, here's the thing with Florida, man. First of all, take nothing away from Houston because I think Houston from 1 to 5 is obviously a great basketball team. They're playing in the game tonight for a reason. But the best player on the floor is the kid Clayton Jr. And this kid, I read a story today, and it's so apropos in terms of what he's doing. It's like the Kemba Walker run. Like when Kemba Walker just got hot for UConn and just carried them it's almost like the same thing. Every time this team gets in trouble late in games, and they were in trouble. They were in trouble against UConn. Absolutely. This kid made big shots. They were in trouble against Texas Tech. This kid made big shots. They were in trouble against Auburn. This kid went off. He carried this team. I mean, if he gets those looks and he makes them tonight, it's really going to be hard for Houston to win that game. Florida does have the best player. Houston has the better defense. So if Florida gets stuck in a low-scoring game, it's going to favor Houston. Obviously, if Florida's able to get to the rim, some kickouts for easy threes, I think that favors Florida.
Again, if you want this free play tonight, the total between Florida and Houston national championship game, all you have to do is text the word WIN, W-I-N, to 545454. Chris Hodge has it for you. He's been red hot for our listeners. 25 shows, his last 25 shows, 19-5-1 off the text line for our listeners. Again, text WIN, W-I-N, to 545454. So you mentioned Florida. They want to play with a pace. They want to score, high 70s, low 80s in this game. And then there's Houston. I mean, I have no idea how they beat Duke. I mean, we all watched it in front of our eyes, but the way they were able to do it with that veteran team against the youthful Duke team, and they took advantage of some mistakes late. Are they destined here potentially? Like a Houston team that's lost once since November, has had a really tough path like Florida. What's their path here tonight? And again, obviously, it's in a lower scoring game.
I mean, if you look at, they've had a historic season, right? Yeah. They've lost 4 games. 3 of them came in overtime. One of them, I think, was against San Diego State in overtime.
It was.
I mean, that's as good as it gets. And they come into the game on an 18-game winning streak. But if you look at a couple of their games, and look, now we're nitpicking, right? That's what happens when it gets to the last game. But, Gonzaga, they really outplayed Gonzaga. And then Gonzaga went to this trap defense towards the end of the game, and Houston really couldn't handle it. And then, to play against Purdue on the inbound, they were lucky to get out of there. And Duke, let's just call it what it is. They had them dead to rights. They just couldn't inbound the ball, and they couldn't make a free throw. So there's 3 games there that Houston really got in trouble. But what do great teams do? They find ways to win, right? And Houston has done that. Look, I don't remember when it was, but I know Kansas had them dead to rights. I think Kansas was up like 6 with 14 seconds left, and Houston came back and beat them in that game. So Houston has a thing going on where, if Florida gets up 7, 8, 9 points, it doesn't affect them because they've been in this situation before and they come back and win games. So I don't think a lead for Florida is going to be safe today. Look, they're not going to get up double digits comfortably. It's going to be a tight game. And based on that, don't go crazy with the side of this game tonight. I really think the side is going to go back and forth. I'm telling you guys right now, we are on a side because we have to be. All right. But I don't have my customers betting big money on it because I think this game is going to be between 5 points either which way the whole game. Okay. I really do believe the best players on the total, which is why we're giving it out for free.
Yeah, should be a good one tonight. You can listen to the game right here on San Diego Sports 7. 6-yard coverage starts at 4 p.m. So, I mean, football is not for another, 5 months here, Chris. After tonight, what's the plans for you, man?
I mean, so I have many customers in San Diego, and you guys have been great. And I tell them all the same thing. I'm not personally good in the NBA. I never have been. It's not a sport that I excel in. And baseball, I give a couple picks here and there, but it's not something I have, my customers bet big money on. Our bread and butter has always been college football, the NFL, and college basketball. So I can sit on any radio show and say, hey, we're going to have the NBA playoffs. But in fairness, I just want to be being honest to my customers. And I don't believe that's a great way of doing business. So, my company will still have NBA stuff and MLB stuff, but we don't go crazy on it. What we do, and this is what we try to get into. When we come back for football, right, you're going to hear me say this. You guys out there, you're going to have no clue what JUCO transfers came in. You're going to have no clue what freshmen are playing. That is the research that we do. We start watching all of these spring football games now. We do all of this research for the next 5 months to plan for football season. And that's why we tend to get off to really good starts in football, and then it just carries over. So the next 5 months, maybe I'll take a couple weeks here and there, but we'll really be studying football, college football, and then, see what the NFL draft does, any more free agents moving. And we just study the teams, the lineups, the schedules when they come out in the NFL, and we try to give our customers the best opportunity to win.
Chris, we've loved having you on throughout the course of another season. Again, our listeners have been fortunate because of how good your plays have been. And again, you can text the word WIN right now, WIN, to 545454. That's all you got to do. And you get the free pick on tonight's national championship game, that total. That's all you got to do. Text the word WIN, WIN, to 545454. Chris's last 25 text line plays for our shows, 19-5-1. You get the total tonight for absolutely free. Florida and Houston, text the word WIN, WIN, to 545454. Go enjoy a cruise around the world or something, right? Kick your feet up after tonight, Chris.
Man, the last time I went on a cruise, I lost so much money playing craps. I had this 75-year-old woman. She kept throwing the dice off the table. I was just like, what do you do here?
All right, well,
but
don't go
on
on
another note, you guys are in a tough division right now. The Padres, man. I was looking at that division. I'm like, holy
yeah,
cow.
someone's going to win 126 games and miss out.
Yeah, they're going to be the wild card team.
3 teams are what, 8-2 or better through 10 games?
8-1. What, the Giants on a 7-game win streak? I just pulled it up. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, like what's going on here?
Holy smokes.
I know.
But great start for your Padres, right? 8-2. You guys can't ask for anything more. And we did give a free play, I think it was a couple weeks ago, that the Padres would make the playoffs. And just keep this in your mind, the guy we picked for the Cy Young, who I believe was 50-1, hasn't given up a run yet in baseball. So hopefully that continues.
I was going to text that to Jim over the weekend. I saw he went like 8 shutout innings or 7 shutout innings for Atlanta.
Yeah. Is it the only win of the Brave season so far was Schwellenbach?
Was it?
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to win a Cy Young on a team that goes 30 and no, they're not going to. They'll get
30
going.
and 130.
They'll get going. Chris, appreciate it, man. Again, for our listeners, if you want tonight's total, Florida and Houston, just text the word win, WIN, to 545454. Do it right now. And Chris will do it again soon, my friend. Thanks for doing it.
You guys have a great spring and summer. Thank you for everything.
Great stuff from Chris Hodge at Taking Vegas all season long. You sent out a tweet this weekend in typical Jim fashion along the lines of, how did San Diego State beat Houston? As if something Houston showed us against Duke was like, I can't believe it now. Now that they've beaten Duke, how did San Diego State beat Houston? I mean, I got the box score. I got the video.
It was like a joke, John.
All of your tweets are a joke. I get it. I'm not going to wring your neck.
Speaking of tweets that are jokes, you saw this. So Jackson Merrill had a 2-run home run yesterday, and I quote tweeted it, and I just copied Darnay because I saw Darnay say this.
Right.
Because I just love copying
everyone's tweets.
Everybody's
coming
tweets.
Up with no original ideas.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just who I am. I just copy everything, and I don't have anything original.
Correct.
So Darnay said, extend him, right? Quote tweeted that. I quote tweeted it and I said, extend him. And for some like stupid reason, that tweet has blown up and people are like, hey, idiot, the Padres already extended him. People are like sending me
articles. You're such an idiot. Did you know they extended him?
People are sending me articles about the extension. And then they're like, I don't know if you're joking or not. I'm
you're
like,
so dumb. You didn't see the extension? What have you been doing?
It's so stupid how that tweet has so many views for no reason.
By the way, in this Aztec win over Houston, Miles Bird made 2 free throws with 13 seconds left to tie the game. LJ Cryer missed a jumper at the buzzer of regulation. Magoon Guath hit 1 of 2 free throws to give the Aztecs a 3-point lead with 12 seconds to play. Cryer then missed a 3 at the buzzer.
Wow.
And the Aztecs won the game 73-70. They trailed at one point, I think, by 13 or 14. They were 14-point underdogs on the neutral floor. They beat Houston 73-70. It's a big reason why the Aztecs were in the tournament. It's the second to last Houston loss, and it came November 30th in Las Vegas.
And to think, if San Diego State did not win that game, they're not in the tournament, most likely.
Right.
Like, that was their golden ticket.
Yeah, I mean, as it kind of should be. I mean,
right,
that's, you know what I mean? It goes down as like one of the best regular season wins of the year because Houston only has 4 losses. Florida only has 4 losses. So they have very few teams that have picked them off. Miles Bird that day, 18 points. Jared Coleman-Jones, 3 of 4 from 3. It
was a great game for him.
16
I remember
points.
that. Was it a double-double? Or
No, 16 and 5.
Okay.
The Aztecs, I'm glad you mentioned that, -2 on the glass against an elite rebounding team.
And this wasn't a Houston team that was missing players.
And everyone.
Right? Everybody.
Juwan Roberts, Emmanuel Sharp, LJ Cryer, Uzan, who's been good. I mean, listen, I think Houston started 4-3, and they're 30-1 since.
And
they started 4-3.
And they're on the cusp of potentially a national championship.
Correct. And after this week in the AP poll, San Diego State was 20th, Houston was 16th. That's where we were in this exact moment at the end of November of 2024. But I think it does give you optimism if you're an Aztec fan. You saw their ceiling a year ago. Hopefully they get a lot of those pieces back for 2025-26. We'll share the Padres lineup with you later this hour. We'll give away Sesame Place tickets as well. On the other side, we have a 4-pack of tickets to go see Sesame Place here in San Diego. We're getting you ready for the national championship game. Our pregame coverage begins at 4 right here on Jon and Jim. All right, coming up in a handful of minutes, we've got a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place. Spring is here, and Sesame Place San Diego has the perfect plans for you and your little ones. So if you're listening, we'll give away a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place. We'll tell you how to win those tickets coming up. Also, the National Championship game pregame coverage begins at 4 right here on San Diego Sports 760. So a shortened Jon and Jim, Houston and Florida, where Jim will be playing to win a pool.
No,
well, you're not playing. Oh, you can't win?
No.
You told me all weekend that if Florida won, you were going to win the first place.
Yeah, I didn't realize at the time that I also needed Duke to win. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And they were like destined to win.
I'm glad that in real time when I was watching that game, I didn't know that because I would have been very upset. Because Duke lost, the other people in our pool that had Houston winning, now obviously there's no way for me to jump them because they both had Houston, Florida in the national championship. I had Florida, Duke in the national championship. So even if Florida wins, I can't jump them in points here.
Next year could be your year.
It's always next year, John.
Did you see our buddy John Fanta had Florida Houston in the national championship?
Of course
he's got
did.
Florida winning it.
Of course he did.
He had 3 of the 4 teams in the Final Four, including Florida and Houston. He had 1 2-seed, Michigan State.
John Fanta is not only a legend, but he is the hardest working man in the sports industry this weekend.
He just grinds. And he's like he's quickly become the voice of college basketball. He's like on a level where he's like equal John Rothstein somehow, or he's gotten pretty close in a very short period of time. I think this is going to be a hell of a game. I'm going with Houston tonight. I think Houston, for whatever reason, I don't know if they're the better team. I just feel like they're destined here under Kelvin Sampson. They've gotten to a championship game. Their arc reminds me of San Diego State. 10 years ago, they were in the American Athletic Conference. Their first year with Kelvin Sampson, they were under 500, and they just keep improving. They win with defense. They've sustained their rosters here recently. They've won in the Big 12. And at this point, it's like it's hard for me to bet against them. Florida's been awesome. I think Florida is absolutely terrific. I just feel like Houston, again, I don't know if they're better, but I just feel like they're going to find a way over 40 minutes. Who do you think wins tonight?
I think Florida because they have the best guard in the country.
He's unbelievable. Walter Clayton Jr. is incredible.
And in March, when you have good guard play, more often than not, those teams are the teams that, win at a high clip.
Mm-hmm.
He's been fantastic, but I would, if that game starts out like the Duke Houston game where it was very low scoring and you look up and it's like, this is not a normal Duke game.
Right.
Then advantage Houston because that would play right into what they want to do, which is make the game, kind of ugly, low scoring. And when I say low scoring, I mean in like the 60s to like low 70s. Yeah. But if you tell me tonight Florida scores like 78 points, I would say Florida wins the national championship.
We didn't even touch on like Chris Hodge did with Cooper Flagg, who had this brilliant season. I didn't win a national championship game, but that's not easy. They were favored to do it, obviously. The thing I was going to say we didn't touch on is the play that they drew up for Cooper Flagg trailing by 1. That's a high degree of difficulty shot. Now, Cooper Flagg's a brilliant player, probably destined for a long NBA career and the number 1 pick, whether it's this year or next. I think he should go, but that's for him. But the play they draw up is a fadeaway in the paint from like 12 feet that, to me, it's like, I don't know. You take a timeout, and that's the best you can do for Cooper Flagg. Plus, everyone in the world knew he was taking the final shot. Did they think at all about drawing something up for Flagg, and he dishes at the last moment? He's a brilliant passer as well. I just thought that was a high degree of difficulty shot in that moment.
He's had multiple chances this year late in the game to put the team up by 1 or hit the game winner, and he's failed like every time.
Now, a lot of that was really early.
It was, but still, you can't help but think that like in the back of his mind in this moment, knowing the plays drawn up for him, like I saw,
that's a good point.
Like, did you notice out of the timeout, John Shire's like talking to Cooper Flagg?
Yeah, which means like you're going to shoot the ball.
Oh, he's getting the ball. Yeah. I mean, it was the most obvious thing in the world.
And the way he looked at him, like his eyes got all big, John Shire.
And he was like smiling, kind of like trying to calm him down. He's like, you got this. You got this. Yep. I'm Houston. I'm like, what? I'm surprised they didn't double Cooper Flagg.
I know.
That was what I was most surprised about there in the last shot. And again, it's a a tough fadeaway, but it's a shot he can make.
Now, you hated the over the back. I didn't have any issue with it.
I didn't like it from the sense of like, yes, by the letter of the law, is that over the back? Yeah. But then you better call 10 other over the backs in that game as well. I mean, if they're calling that call all night long, then I get it. But I mean, that was a physical game. Houston is very physical. They're men out there against boys. Like, how many freshmen were on Duke compared to seniors and fifth-year guys on Houston? I mean, those guys have the receding hairlines. Duke's out there with fresh baby cuts. And that play, I just didn't like it in that moment to be called over the back. It wasn't as egregious as some of the non-over the back calls that we saw in that game and in every other game that we see.
That's fair. That's completely fair. And ultimately, Duke didn't lose because of the over the back. They lost because they threw the game away. Shout out, by the way, to someone in our YouTube chat, Jeff West, because if you're watching us on YouTube, we've got like this new graphic package today.
Oh, dude, Jeff, bro, you're the man.
So, yeah, Jeff, I don't even know how we've begun to institute some new graphics thanks to our buddy Jeff.
Yeah.
We're not fully there because we don't have everything, but Jim wanted to get this going right away. So, Jeff, you're the man because this thing looks way better.
You're the man.
So, thank you, Jeff, who is a loyal viewer and supporter of Jon and Jim and the wrap-up show. We promised you a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place, and caller 4, you are going. All you need to do is call 877-767-4760. Caller 4, you've got a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place, 877-767-4760. Now through April 20th, experience a hoppin' good time at Elmo's Egg Extravaganza with exciting rides, move and groove to the Sesame Street Party Parade, and more. With so many exciting experiences awaiting you, there's something for everyone at Sesame Place San Diego. Sesame Place, open daily for spring break, March 29th through April 6th. And then again, April 12th through the 20th. Visit SesamePlaceSanDiego.com for more details. 877-767-4760. Padres line up on the other side as they get set for the A's tonight at 7 p.m. This is Jon and Jim.
Look.
All right, this update is brought to you by Progressive. Padres and Athletics from Sacramento tonight, 7:05 first pitch. Michael King on the mound for the Padres against Luis Severino for the Athletics. And tonight is the national championship game, Houston and Florida from San Antonio. Tip-off at 5:50. Our pregame coverage starts at 4 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. And this update's been brought to you by Progressive.
All right, busy night. Again, Padres in Sacramento for a first time taking on the A's. Padres AAA team has been there. But the Padres haven't been in Sacramento, but they'll take on the A's here tonight, the first of 3 games. And then the Padres will be back home. But again, tonight, pregame coverage for the national championship begins at 4. Tip-off's been moved up for the national championship game. It used to be 6:10 Pacific. It's been moved to 5:50 Pacific this year. So Houston and Florida, you can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760, beginning at 5:50. But again, pregame coverage will begin at 4 p.m. So I thought we'd see a Padres lineup by now. It'll be mere moments. They have to have it out by 3 hours before the game. We're just over 3 hours from first pitch. It's a righty on the mound, Luis Severino for the A's, former Met. Had a really good start this year, had a really bad start. He's walked a ton of batters, and the Padres have taken advantage of command issues so far this year. But it's Severino and it's Michael King who's trying to build off what was an awesome start for King his last time out. He struck out 11 his last time out. That's your matchup here tonight.
I'm really oddly excited to see what it looks like tonight. Again, I'm not excited that this is happening. I hate that it's happening. This should have never happened. John Fisher is an awful owner, and to put these fans in this position is awful. The only thing I'm excited about is like potentially the Padres can kind of mash there tonight and this series. Like that'd be cool.
I think this is a full Padres home game at a minor league stadium. Yeah, my guess is 80% of the fans. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't watched one game in Oakland so far or Sacramento. I know they've played just 3. I would assume everyone there for the Cubs series was a Cubs fan. I will assume everyone there over the next 3 days is a Padres fan. We're in the state of California. The Padres have been relevant for years on end at this point. The A's haven't. I just think this is a Padres home game, and I'm with you. I hope they mash. Like that's what now. Like what would you take in terms of home runs hit from the Padres over the next 3 games? What's your over under?
I want it to be like the Mexico City series from a couple years ago.
That was ridiculous. Is Sacramento Mexico City?
I don't think so. And it's not going to be super hot there.
No, not today. The next couple of days are
warm-ish, but it won't be anything near like what it will be in the summertime,
right?
Where at nighttime the humidity is like 98 degrees.
Correct.
But I don't know. We'll see. Well,
so what would you take, or what's your total? Like over under on Padres home runs
in the series?
Yes.
I'll go over under 6.5.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
It's an average of more than 2 per game. That's not who they've been yet,
no.
But they played games at Petco and freezing Wrigley, where Tatis said, by the way, yesterday, he's like, I hate playing in freezing weather. Simple as that.
Everybody does. Who does like playing in freezing weather?
I mean, half these guys though have to do it. Like if you play for the Cubs, you deal with it. If you play for the Rockies, you deal with it. The truth is, I haven't done the deep dive on the schedule like you have.
Do you want to know the schedule?
They don't play a ton of cold weather series, obviously. How many more are they going to play? It would only be through like the first week of May, where it's the possibility, or the second week of May.
Well, John, I'm glad you asked me that question because
why don't you tell me every game they're going to play this year?
I could. September, John. We're going to jump to September.
Just tell me the rest of their April road.
Their rest of their April road are Houston Dome. It's fine. Detroit.
When's that?
That is the April 21st to the 23rd.
It could be chilly.
Now, when you get to September here, John,
it's not chilly in September.
It's not September. It's not chilly in September, but I mean, it's cold. You know.
April's way different.
I know. That's it.
September shouldn't be a factor.
They go to Pittsburgh and New York at the beginning of May.
It should be fine.
And Colorado.
Global warming. It's just April.
Yeah.
By and large, you could of course run into a cold day anywhere.
Yeah.
But by and large, April's what you think about. I'm watching those Cubs games. I'm like, I don't want to. It's hard to watch because it looks cold.
Well, Mark Nimitz, our buddy Mark Nimitz, was at those games.
That's right. He was.
And we saw him wearing a lot of
stuff.
Yeah. Sweatshirts and mitts, and Don and Mud were wearing those big warmers on their hands. Who wants to play in the cold?
No one wants to do. I'm with you.
Imagine a jam shot. I mean, your hands are ringing.
What are the dimensions here? I just looked it up. So Sutter Health Park, obviously, right? 330 to left, 325 to right, 403 to center. It has been a launching pad. And that's what the PCL is known for. Remember, it's a Pacific Coast League stadium. So we'll see if it's a launching pad here tonight. It will be this summer. I promise you that.
We have a developing story, John.
Does it have to do with the lineup?
It does. And I'm curious to hear the reasoning.
Someone's out?
Somebody's out of this lineup tonight.
One of the starters?
One of the starters.
The regulars.
One of the regulars. Could you guess who is out of tonight's lineup?
You're saying, you're not like completely overreacting like it would be like a Machado Tatis situation. The way you're saying it is almost like Gavin Sheets isn't in the lineup to me.
I mean, when I tell you the name, maybe you might say you should overreact because Jackson Merrill is not in tonight's lineup.
Oh, I'm leaving. Well, so they dropped the opener, but they can still win the series. Why is Jackson Merrill not in the lineup?
So tonight's lineup reads as such. Fernando Tatis Jr. leading off. Luis Arraez hitting second at first. Manny Machado's hitting third. Jake Cronenworth's at second, but he's hitting cleanup tonight. Gavin Sheets is the DH. Xander Bogaerts is at short. Jason Hayward in left. Brendan Lockridge in center.
Where is he?
And Elias Diaz at catcher. Yeah, did he miss the flight? There's no way they're scheduling an off day for Jackson Merrill. No chance.
I mean, there are no off days. You're 21. You were off Thursday. You know, like what's the reasoning here?
Where's Jackson Merrill?
Like, you don't sit. And I don't want to hear, it's just a little ouchy.
He's the type of guy too that if you go to him and he's perfectly fine, you say, "Hey, we're giving you an off day tomorrow." He's like, "Shove it, Mike. I'm playing."
Who's in center?
Brandon Lockridge.
No, he ain't Jackson Merrill.
Why is he getting an off day? I will hold.
Well, we don't know it's an off day.
We don't know. We don't know.
I hope it's an off day.
I pray it's an off day and it's not like a tweak of something.
Yeah, I don't need the tweet, you know?
Little ouchie?
Well, I watched him yesterday. He hit like home runs.
He was like,
and walked and scored the tying run.
I'm trying to find if there's anything.
Well, there
out
will
there.
be. In the next 27 seconds, I need to know.
Because I'm not seeing anything. I think people are also saying, "Where's Jackson Merrill? Where's Jackson Merrill?"
That's what everyone wants to know.
He is not the type of player that you give an off day on April 7th.
I don't think 10 days into the season. They just had an off day Thursday. So I don't think so. If I'm giving someone an off day, it's one of these veterans.
Look at this, Talking Friars. He quotes tweets the Padres lineup. He says, "Merrill as a bat off the bench could be big, bro."
Well, it could be bigger as a bat off the starting lineup.
He could be way bigger with five ABs
as opposed to one.
Stop.
Now, there's got to be a reason. I need a reason. No, that's not. You should have freaked out. You made it the way you said it. I thought it was going to be like Gavin Sheets.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I should have freaked out.
But again, Jackson, no, I mean, it's whatever. Maybe it's just an off day.
Just text Kevin. Kevin, what's going on, man? Now
we're going to see it in 5 minutes.
Now, Kevin was not at the ballpark when we talked to him, so he
could be now. It was an hour ago.
Well, I meant we talked to Kevin.
Yeah.
He said he was not at the ballpark.
I know, but that was an hour ago. He might be now.
My point was being that when we talked to Kevin, he wasn't at the ballpark. So anything about Jackson Merrill, he wouldn't know yet.
I don't think anyone knows. I think maybe Schilt will speak with the media before the game. There has to be some explanation. It's either an off day or something's tweaked, right? But, I mean, I wouldn't have forecasted that heading into the series. Off a day game yesterday, I wouldn't have forecasted that.
He played all 9 yesterday, right?
He played all 9. He did.
Maybe he's got some like food poisoning or something. Not feeling well. Little bubble guts.
I mean, this is speculation.
I know it's all speculation. I'm just hoping it's like something like that and not like his hammy does not feel right or his oblique or whatever, right?
How about this? Someone's DMing me right now. After he got to third base, after the failed back pick by the catcher, he was stretching his hammy on camera, leading off at third. That's an interesting point. Thank you, Brandon, for sharing that. Yep. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate you.
So he does legitimately have a little ouchie.
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't know if Brandon can speak for the organization or not, but Mike Schilt will, and he probably will speak at some point in the next few minutes. So if we get more information on Jackson Merrill, we're going to share it with you. That's a developing story. Gavin Sheets, by the way, to your point, is hitting 5th in this lineup.
Ahead of Xander Bogaerts.
So all of a sudden, he's like, he has had a great start where you're counting on him regularly right now, certainly against right-handed pitching. He's going to play every day.
Yeah. Man, if you're Xander, I mean, you're just getting dropped in this lineup every single game. I mean, does he ever consistently hit in the top 4 of this lineup ever again?
Well, they bat him cleanup, and like you said.
I know they have batted him
this
cleanup,
year,
but he's just not coming through.
Right. It's early. He'll have opportunities, but Gavin Sheets is making the most of his opportunities.
Yeah, and glad that they're rewarding him. Gavin Sheets yesterday coming up big when Xander couldn't, and it's like an automatic now when there's a righty on the mound that he will be in the lineup. Automatic.
Yeah, this is interesting. Maybe it has to do with what Brandon was sharing there, that he was stretching out his hammy on third base in that 8th inning yesterday when he came across to score the tying run, I believe. But we'll have an update for you once we get it. Jackson Merrill, we're here until 4. That's when our pregame coverage will begin. Houston and Florida in the national championship game, 5:50 tip-off. Our pregame coverage begins at 4 p.m. in about 20 minutes. The latest on Jackson Merrill on the other side. Not in the lineup tonight for the Padres. It's Jon and Jim.
Save on Cox Internet when you add Cox Mobile. Go to Cox.com.
Right, a reminder, download the all-new iHeartRadio app, and when you do that, put San Diego Sports 760 in your presets. Put it preset number 1. Listen to Jon and Jim live every weekday from 2 to 6 p.m. with San Diego Sports 760 as your first preset. In addition, you can put Jon and Jim in your presets. If you ever miss anything, you can listen back any hour, any interview, available now on the all-new iHeartRadio app. So there's speculation here on Merrill. Was it that he was stretching his hammy yesterday in cold Chicago? RotoWire, I think, saying he's just getting his first day off. I mean, they have no idea. I'm just looking at the website.
That'd be kind of ridiculous.
So we kind of wait. We're kind of waiting right now to find out the latest with Jackson Merrill. I assume we're going to hear from Mike Schilt at some point between now and the start of this game as he speaks with the media.
Yeah, I'm hoping worst case is just like a little ouchie, and it's just a precautionary thing.
Little ouchie?
Little ouchie.
Or he's not feeling well, his stomach hurts, or you know what I mean? Something like that. I don't want to hear anything with like, yeah, we got problems.
Yeah. They never say that. They'd be like, oh, his hammy tightened up, he's fine. And then even if it's something of significance, they would say that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to think because we're gonna have to wait until Schilt speaks to the media to fully find out. But it is definitely something to keep an eye on. There is no way I am going to, think right now it's just an off day for Jackson Merrill because it's April 7th. This kid doesn't take off days. He wants to play 162.
Yeah, if he's not hurt. Did he play last year? And they sat him a little bit early.
155?
Yeah, and they sat him a couple times. Remember, against left-handed pitching to start the year. And he ended up appearing last year in 156 games.
156, I was off by
So,
one.
yeah, this guy doesn't miss a lot. Now, again, over the course of 162, could you schedule 3 or 4 days? Yeah, absolutely. But would you do it 10 games in?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
After you played a day game yesterday.
And homered.
Yeah.
Like, you've had a great start. You've hit 3 home runs in 10 games. You have 10 RBIs. You're hitting 400 or whatever he's hitting. So everything's going perfectly.
I really, 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 really am hoping, like knocking on all the wood, fingers crossed,
right,
that this is just a precautionary tonight, giving him a night off because he, has a little ouchie with whatever.
How is there not more chatter about this?
I know. I haven't really seen anything.
There's very little.
Like what?
Now again, we're still 3.5 hours before this game. This game doesn't start till after 7.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not that pressing that they speak on it at this exact moment. But Schilt probably speaks to the media 3 hours before a game.
Also interesting too is if Jackson's dealing with like a minor injury or whatever the case may be, you would think that they would like wait till they get to the ballpark, which they already are probably there, like go through some tests and see how he is before putting on the lineup. That's what usually happens when guys are injured is they like wait till almost like the last second to put a lineup out,
which is what they did. They have to have a lineup out by 3 hours before the game, and
we've seen it happen.
Well, you could change a lineup.
No, but we've seen lineups only like a couple hours out. Like it's sometimes it's taken a while for them to put lineups out, and we're like, where's the lineup, guys?
Yeah, I guess. I think Major League Baseball at this point requires 3 hours from first pitch, but we see the lineup. So, and by the way, they've been at if the game's at 7, he could have been with the training staff 5 hours ago, for all we know. So, I don't know. I really don't know what to make of it, other than hopefully it's just day to day, aren't we all? And it's something very minor, and they can win even without him. I mean, they certainly can win without him over the course of a day. They might be able to win without him over the course of a few days or even a week, but you just don't want to lose a guy that just signed this big deal and has gotten off to this great start. And that's the last thing you'd ever want to start the season with.
And of course, they've gotten off to this like amazing 8-2 start, and they're third place in their division.
That doesn't mean anything.
I know it doesn't mean anything. I get it. But just like the optics of early on, you're like 8-2 off to a franchise record start. And you look at the standings and you're like, third place. I get it's early, but you get my point of like, 7-0 to start the season. Oh, by the way, the Giants, are 8-1 or whatever, and the Dodgers are 9-2, and you're like,
yeah, my concern is, maybe the division's really good, but I go back to what we always say, which is the division has so much less importance in today's baseball because it's all about getting in.
No, it is.
You know what I mean? So, and it's so early, so who even cares? But even if the division's really good, there are now paths to the postseason that didn't previously exist. Back in the day, you're in a really good division. It's hard to get to the postseason. Now you're in a really good division. Yeah, you play those teams more, which isn't ideal, but you could still get to the postseason easily. Even in a team in a division with 3 good teams, you can get to the postseason.
Yes, you're absolutely right. My point is just that, like, when you look at the start of the Padres season, it is such a Padres thing to have
very Padres.
Such a great start to your year. You're 7-0 to start, yet the Dodgers are off to a 9-2 start.
Yeah,
and the Giants are off to an 8-1 start, and you're 8-2, yet you're sitting in third place. Again, the places thing. I know you
Right.
whatever, but
it's a half game.
I get it, but I'm just looking at it from, when you look at this first 2 weeks of the year.
Yeah, you think it's been perfect, but so have the start for the Dodgers, so has the start for the
Like,
Giants.
if you haven't been paying attention to anything around baseball other than the Padres, you would be like, Padres are easily like leading this division, and you look up and you say, what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, we knew the Dodgers were going to be formidable all year long, and I'm sure they will be. Nobody necessarily forecasted the Giants being a team that was going to win 90-something games, and they might not. And the Padres may or may not. That'll play out in front of our eyes. But yeah, the Giants have gotten off to a great start.
Especially if this Jackson Merrill thing turns out to be anything.
And are the Giants expected to be better than Arizona this year? And Arizona's only gotten off to an average start. So, I would say that it's early. And at 8-2, I don't care what the standings say. If they can keep playing that type of baseball out of the gates, if they get it to the end of April and they're 7, 8, 9 games over 500, they're on the right path, regardless of what the standings say, if that's how April turns out.
Yeah. And last year's team, just to put this in perspective, we talked about it earlier in the show. They started at 5-7.
Yeah.
And they won 93 games.
And they were within a couple of games of the division in September. They only finished 5 games out in the division. Dodgers only won 98 games. So there'll be twists and turns. Shoot, the Dodgers lost the series, right? This weekend in Philadelphia. They dropped 2 or 3.
They did. Yeah. Giants have had a pretty besides the Astros. I mean, I think the Astros could be good.
Yeah, definitely.
They've had a pretty cush schedule to start their year. They played the Reds for 3, and then they just played the Mariners for 3, and now they're playing the Reds again for a series. Meanwhile, the Padres have played playoff team after playoff team after potential playoff team. Now the A's tonight, different story, but still, that's why I said that the start of the Padres season felt more real than if they started out playing against the Rockies and the Marlins and the, Athletics.
I agree with that. And by the way, the A's in Sacramento, small sample size, that Cubs series have yet to win. They were outscored 35-9. 35. They let 18 runs in one game. Their first ever game in Sacramento, they lost 18-3. They were 4-6, but they're 0-3 at home. And they do have, again, Luis Severino is a very quality starter here tonight, the former Met. He will start tonight for the Athletics in Sacramento. First pitch time just after 7 p.m. We'll have a wrap-up show for you tonight.
Why is Merrill out?
And we still can't get an answer.
Are we alive back there?
Of course, the day we have 4 p.m. pregame coverage of the national championship. We'll find out at 4:01.
Merrill's like hamstring is
don't
off the
say-
bone.
don't
or something.
say that.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. Please, knock on wood. Everything's good. I like this
You just
tweet.
had bad deep dish.
Yeah, I like this
Maybe.
tweet here from Ivan on Twitter. He quote tweeted the lineup and said, "Merrill's sadness."
Yeah. Seriously.
Because when I watch Padres games now, yes, I love watching Tatis and Manny. I am getting very close, and I'm probably actually I'm already there. Of like when Merrill's up, to me, it's stop what I'm doing and watch Jackson Merrill. He is
So
a
clutch.
must-watch player
Yeah.
with this Padres team.
He comes through. Well, for the latest, we all wait to see why Jackson Merrill is not in the starting lineup tonight for the Padres. Again, a wrap-up show coming up tonight following Game 1 of Padres and A's from Sacramento. On the other side, the national championship game, pregame coverage, Florida and Houston, tip-off coming up in less than 2 hours at 5:50. We're back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Full reaction to that and the Padres, SDFC, and more here on San Diego Sports 760. If you missed anything today, make sure to check out sportssd.com and the iHeartRadio app. All right, for Brent and Jim, I'm John. Pregame coverage for the national championship game is next right here on San Diego Sports 760.
Okay.
Bye-bye.